It's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is sled. Now, there's just one meaning for this verb, and that's to travel or slide downhill or over snow on a sled. And you can probably tell by this definition of the verb, we're also going to talk about a noun form of this word a little bit later in the video. I'll show you some pictures of what sleds look like, but I thought this would be a fun verb to discuss again because it's the winter here in the Midwest and we tend to receive a lot of snow, and you might see people engaging in this action over the course of the next month or so. You should know that sled is a regular verb. To make the progressive tense, I'm going to double the last consonant because this ends with a consonant vowel consonant, and then I'll add ing, and that forms sledding. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made in a similar way. So again, I'm going to double the D and then add ed. The base verb, sled, ends in this D, voiced D sound. So our ed ending is going to make an id sound. Sledded, sledded. You'll be happy to know that I don't have any additional meanings with phrasal verbs for this particular verb, so that's going to allow us to focus on making some sentences in the present progressive and the simple future. When we discuss the simple future today, we're going to focus on be going to. You know there's a lot of different ways to make future sentences. We're just going to practice one form of that today. So let's start with the present progressive. We use this verb tense to talk about an action that is in progress. We also use it to talk about something that is happening right now. To make an affirmative present progressive sentence, I need to use a present form of be and then the ing form of the verb. So the present form of be could be am if our subject is I. If our subject is you, we, or they, then our be verb will be are, A-R-E. And then if our subject is he, she, or it, our be verb will be is. You might hear people use contractions, and that's what you're going to see in the first example sentence. We're sledding at the park. Come join us. So you might imagine this is something that someone says over their cell phone, talking to a friend. They're describing what they're doing right now, and they invite the person they're speaking to come do the same action or activity. Now, if I want to make a negative sentence in the present progressive, I need to insert not after our be verb. So there are a couple ways we can make sentences here. So let's look at our example. Right? I could say the kids aren't sledding now. I could say they aren't sledding now. I could also say they're not sledding now. That would be fine. It would have the same meaning. The reason that activity is not happening right now is we're in the middle of a blizzard, so the wind is blowing. It's probably too hard to see. Very, very cold. Not a good time to be outside. Now, if I want to make a yes or no question in the present progressive, I'm going to start with the be verb, then I'll have my subject, and then that ing form of the verb. So again, imagine you're talking to somebody and you're asking, are you sledding now? Are you outside and going downhill? Next, let's take a look at the simple future. And again, today we'll focus on using be going to and then our base verb to form simple future sentences. This is a fairly easy way to express a future plan, a plan for an activity in the future. And again, we're going to use a present form of be, so the ones we just practiced before, am, is, or are. Then we'll have going to and the base verb. So let's look at an affirmative example. We're going to sled later this afternoon. Again, I can make this negative by inserting not after my be verb. he isn't going to sled down that giant hill. So that's not his future plan. And if I want to make a yes or no question in the simple future using be going to, I will start with be, then I'll have my subject, then going to, and the base verb. Here's another example. Is she going to sled tomorrow? Now, there's one thing I want to point out about our verb sled, and that is you are probably more likely to hear people use sled as a gerund. And this might be getting a little too technical and too into grammar, but a gerund is the ing form of a verb. But in a sentence, it's not being used as a verb. We treat it more like a noun because it's describing an activity. So how you might hear sledding as a gerund is likely with the verb go. So I took the simple future example from before and I flipped it up. It would have roughly the same meaning though. Okay, we're going to go sledding this afternoon. Would have the same meaning of we're going to sled later this afternoon. And again, it might be a bit regional, but I think when I hear people talk about this activity, I probably more commonly hear the gerund form than it just used as a verb. Now, let's take a look at some words that are related to our verb sled. And I already mentioned at the very beginning that sled, same spelling, same pronunciation, can also be a noun. And there are kind of two different things that we might be referring to when you hear the word sled. So the first is a small, lightweight vehicle. And that word confuses a lot of people. They immediately think cars. Just think of a way to transport or move someone or something. Okay? So a small, lightweight vehicle, either on runners or having a smooth bottom surface that's used for sliding downhill over snow or ice. And again, I know sometimes these definitions are wordy, so I've included a couple pictures that will hopefully illustrate this. So if you look on the left-hand side first here, you see two very little children sitting on a sled. And if you look down here where I'm trying to move my cursor, those would be runners. So this is one type of a sled. Now, you'll probably hear people refer to the object in the second picture, in the second picture here as also a sled. And this is what is meant by a smooth bottom. So it does not have those same little runners to help guide or track. Now, many people will use other terms for these objects, but their purpose is all the same, right? It's to move downhill or move through snow and ice. A second definition for our noun is a vehicle that's used for conveying or moving goods or passengers over snow and ice that is either pushed or pulled or drawn. So again, think of pulled by horses, dogs, etc. So the third picture I have here is to help illustrate this. So you can see a couple dogs here, and you can see they're hooked. They're probably more. And if you look at the very back here, you would see a sled. And it's likely this person that's posing for the photo will go and sit down and will use commands to tell the dogs to go or to stop and utilize other things to help them kind of navigate. So let's take a look now at a couple examples of these two noun usages for the word sled. The first is, how many people can fit on that sled, right? So here, looks like there are two right now, but you might be able to get another third very small child on that sled. Whereas maybe on this one, you might be able to, again, get two very small people, but probably not many more than that. The second usage, so something that's moving goods or passengers, An example of that would be in New Hampshire. You can experience a dog sled adventure. And this is probably true in other U.S. states and other foreign countries as well. If this isn't something you're common for you to see, then if you visit during a snowy part of the year, then you can have the experience of riding or possibly even driving the dog sled. The last word I'm going to leave you with today is sledder, right? And that suffix er, right, is usually telling us it's a person who does the verb or the action. So here, a sledder is a person who rides or who steers a sled, so kind of directs it in where to go. So here's an example of this noun in a sentence. How many sledders are at the top of the hill? Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.